Danny Bench has tied it up. The Cincinnati Reds win the World Series in force rate. It was a sweep.
In the dirt, it's a wild pitch. Here comes Foster. The Reds win the pennant.
Larkins won the game.
That ball is fair. Cincinnati's ahead. 2-0.
Welcome Joe Randa to Cincinnati. Adam Dunn has done it again.
Benzinger backing and calling. And the 1990 World Championship belongs to the Cincinnati Reds.
Marty, yes. This is Adam from Milwaukee. Hey, Adam, how you doing? I'm good. How are you? Good. Do you think Scott Chatterbox is a good player?
Dunn up there with the bases loaded. The outfield deep and around toward right, and the 1-0 on the way to the plate. Swung on. Long drive. Right field. And this one belongs to the Reds.
And a high drive. Hit back into deep right field. Junior has just knocked the door down to the 500 club.
Benson's first home run is a walk-off winner. That ball had a family.
And De La Cruz is, oh my goodness, look at this kid run. My, oh my, that is a triple.
Matt McClain's first big league bomb.
Spencer Steer's first big league hit is a home run to straightaway center field. Joey Votto's done it again.
The pitch. Votto swings high in the air. Right field. Yes! He pointed to the dugout to say, I told you. That is Joey Votto's 315th career go-ahead ribby. Only Johnny Bench had more as a Red.
And I can't tell you how much it means to play in front of everyone here in Cincinnati as a Red. What a gift. What a tremendous gift. So thank you. Thank you.
I think I can speak for all of Reds country. Joey Votto, thank you.
High drive. Left center field. Racing back to the line. Bourgeois. The Reds are National League Central Division champions. In the air, left center field. Did he? Did he? He did. He did. Reds win. Reds win. Line into right field. Junior, the first Red ever with 4 home runs in a game. Can you believe it? In the air, down the right field line. Does it have a chance? The Reds have won on a 3-run home run on opening day by Ramon Hernandez. A strike away and out away is Homer Bailey. Ground ball to third. Frazier gloves. Throw to first, and Homer Bailey, for the second time in his major league career, has tossed a no-hitter. Oh, gosh. Oh, my God. Are you kidding me? Holy Moses, the second player in major league history to hit 7 home runs in the first 10 games. In the air, and the Reds win it. What a dream beginning to the career of Jay Bruce.
You know, I'm going to come clean on something. A little inside baseball for everybody to start this show off. We struck a deal with a vertical market that I think is something that is important to us. It's one that I wanted to make sure that we got right. We did it for an extended period of time. And it took a while to get across the finish line, and we finally do it. And we're supposed to have an opportunity to possibly do it, maybe last week, sneak it in sometime last week, last weekend, sometime this week. And at some point, you just got to do it, right? Like, you got to do it. But you want the timing to be right. You want it to feel, you want the vibes to be high. You want people to be relatively excited. And I got to tell you, the Cincinnati Reds provided zero opportunity for us to be able to do that. So you know what? I said I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off. Tonight is going to be ripping the Band-Aid off. We're going to have a come into Jesus moment right here on Chatterbox Reds about this organization and where we're at. But before we do, I want to let you know that we have a relationship with Braxton Brewing, a partnership that I'm very excited about. And they have a sick beer called ballpark beer. I don't know if you've heard of it before or if you've seen it, but the can itself, Nick, the can itself, I mean, it's legit. And it says right on the back, if you can read, the baseball beer brewed for Reds country. It's almost like I don't even really want to ruin the can, but obviously you need to open it up. And I'd like to crack one open perhaps on a Reds win, and I think I'm going to do that every time the Reds do win. And they gave me let's just say I call it 2 cases of beer. I thought, 2 cases, that'll last us a little bit of time. That might last us all year. It might last us all year. I don't know when the expiration date is on. I mean, this was brewed, okay, for folks that want to know how fresh these are. This was brewed on May 2nd, 2026. And like I said before, I was hoping to do this for a win, but we can't wait any longer. We got to move on, so here goes nothing. That's for this show, by the way. That's got nothing to do with the Reds. That's for this show. So shout out to Braxton Brewing. We'll have some more information as we progress. And hopefully some better times here as Reds fans. Reds get swept by the St. Louis Cardinals, who were supposed to be pretty poor. They were supposed to be selling off. They were supposed to be in a rebuild. And turns out they're not. Well, at least at the moment they're not. And they found a way to take care of the Cincinnati Reds for the third straight day, 5-3. Nick, I don't even really want to ask you how you're doing because that would be a waste of time. But I will say it's good to see you. We've gotten some help. We've gotten some help this year for folks to fill in, give us the ability to lighten the load. And I got to be honest, if I had to do this every single night, all right, either somebody would tell me I'm drinking too much ballpark beer, and or I probably would quit the show. Honest to God, I don't know which one would come first, but this is bad. This is bad. I knew it was going to be bad, and I warned everybody a couple weeks ago. I said, listen, we just got to survive in advance the next 2 or 3 weeks until we get the full roster back and we can try to make something work. But it's been worse than I even expected it to be, Nick.
Yeah, it's been ugly. That was about as just brutal of a week of baseball as you could have. And the only win was kind of a miraculous win where they came back down in the ninth inning. Yeah, I think we kind of talked before. I mean, look, this was a team coming into the year that I think the realistic hope was that maybe this is an 85-win team. Well, you lose Hunter Green, you lose Ellie De La Cruz, and at this point in time, that's subtracting at least 10 wins right there. So right now, this version is a 75-win team if things went well, and things are not going well on top of that. Like they're not a good baseball team right now, but then they're also just having like things just pile on, like Sam Moll throwing a ball away today, and there's just been a plethora of different ways that they've lost games this last week, and it's bad. And you got about a couple weeks here to turn it around, or we're going hard into being sellers at the trade deadline.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I couldn't imagine being buyers, like with no disrespect. Like the whole.
We thought that last time this year.
Yeah, well, I like. There's just so many ways to go with this, and I think that I honestly want to try to just save it. I'm going to save it. I'm going to try to do my job. I'm going to stick to the rundown, and at some point, inevitably, Nick, you're just going to have to forgive me. I will go off the rails, and I probably will be a little toxic tonight because it's just like it calls for it, to be quite frank. It calls for it. I don't know when it's going to come out, but it's going to come out because I'm already a little boiling over, and I don't want to ruin the show by just not following the rundown. So I'm going to do my best to try to be appropriate and say, let's do the box score recap before we go any farther.
Let's do it. All right. Your box score recap is brought to you by our friends at Sharefax Credit Union in honor of launching their new podcast, the Financial Podcast. Sharefax Credit Union is giving away Savannah Bananas tickets when they come to Cincinnati.
Smart
June
move.
19th through the 21st. To enter, go to sharefax.org/thefinancial podcast. I think if you just go to sharefax.org, you can probably find it on there. Follow them on their Spotify and subscribe to their YouTube channel to receive additional entries to one of 3 ticket packages. Winners will be drawn on Friday, June 12th. No purchase necessary. See contest rules on the webpage. All right, well, the Reds for this afternoon, we're trying to avoid being swept in St. Louis, Rhett Lowder making his first start in over a month against the Cardinals' right-handed pitcher Michael McGreevy. Reds jumped out to a 2-0 lead on back-to-back homers from Matt McLain and Tyler Stevenson in the top of the third. It was 2-0 Reds. Rhett Lowder somehow, some way through 3 scoreless innings, despite walking 5 batters, hitting a batter, and only throwing 34 of his 70 pitches for strikes, but that left a lot of innings to cover for the Cincinnati bullpen. Caleb Ferguson got his job done. He threw a scoreless 4th inning, but Chris Paddock gave up 3 runs in the 5th, and the Cardinals took a 3-2 lead. Matt McLain homered again in the 7th to tie the game up at 3, Matt McLain's 3rd home run in the last 2 games, but Sam Moll gave up 2 runs in the bottom of the 8th, and the Cardinals took a 5-3 lead. Moll gave up a pair of singles to lead off the 8th inning, and then he threw away a sac bunt bunted back to him. Looked like Moll had the runner dead to rights at third base. Reds will go quietly in the 9th, and the Reds fall 5-3. Reds now a season worst 2 games under 500 at 31-33, and the Reds have lost 4 straight games. They're 2-8 in their last 10 games, and since starting 2011, the Reds are just 11-22 since.
All right, we got the deep drive of the day. Shout out to Matt McLain. It was a ball in which, I don't know, I didn't expect it to get out of the yard, but it did. 104 off the bat, 411 feet. That would give the Reds a 1-0 lead, and believe it or not, it was a 61% chance of winning, but as we pretty much know, over the last 2 weeks, it always winds up being 0%. Chatterbox Reds, of course, is proud of the deep drive of the day being sponsored by QC Kinetix. If knee pain or shoulder pain is slowing you down, whether it's on the golf course, the pickleball court, or even the gym, it might be time to talk to the care team at QC Kinetix Cincinnati about regenerative medicine options. QC Kinetix takes a different approach, focusing on treatments designed to help your body heal and recover. They're conveniently located in Liberty Township, right across from Lakota East High School. You can see what they're all about by visiting QCkinetix.com or calling 513-655-3356. Make sure to tell them Chatterbox sent you. At this point, if you like this show, the main message to you would be that if you have an opportunity to support one of our sponsors, now's the time we need you, because if the Reds continue to go down the path that they're going down, I don't know how many people are going to think it's a wise investment to put their hard-earned dollars towards Reds affiliates, if you want to call it that. But nonetheless, Reds are swept, and now they are 2-12 against the division, Nick. And I don't know if that's the worst thing that I've encountered since we've done this show. We've had some pretty low moments, but the truth is that it's impossible. It's downright impossible to be this bad against divisional opponents. Yeah, you can get unlucky, it feels like, but even if you were a terrible team, you're going to do better than 2-12. And it seems as if the luck, which is what I'm calling it, the luck that we ran into the first month and a half of the season, we have found the opposite of that and then some for the last, call it 30 days. And now we find ourselves right where we're supposed to be. And I hate saying that, and I know some people are going to probably say it's easier said now than when they're hot. The most difficult thing, and I mean this genuinely, the most difficult thing when you do this show is that you don't want to be a Debbie Downer when things are going well. You just don't. I mean, no one's going to want to listen to this show. No one's going to probably enjoy the show if I get on here a month into the season when you're 20-11 and I say, well, but you know these things aren't going to keep going on. Look at this, look at that, look at this. No one wants to hear that. But the reality is that most people that are really got their nose to the grindstone and pay attention we knew deep down that, at some point this isn't going to continue. And now we find ourselves where we're supposed to be is what I'm getting at. Now, I'm not saying that we're this bad, because we're not. This team that we find ourselves watching at this current iteration of the Cincinnati Reds in 2026 is not this bad. But they were nowhere near as good as they were when they were 2011. And the truth of the matter is this is exactly what this team deserves on June 7th, heading into June 8th. And now you find yourself in a spot where you ask, how do you fix it if there's something to be fixed? We'll get into that and more, obviously, probably on the back end of the show. But just to stick to kind of the traditional onset of the rundown, Nick, Reds get swept by the Cardinals. Ugly, ugly baseball game today. And to be honest, I know you had mentioned running some tough luck with Mole throwing the ball away, but Rhett Lowder dodged bullet after bullet after bullet. He was not good today, and he got out unscathed for the most part. And I would say that luck, if you want to call it that, rounded itself out towards the back end of the game. And I hate to say this, but you got what you deserved yet again, and you didn't really deserve to win this game, and you didn't.
2-13 against the NL Central, and they haven't played the Brewers yet.
Yeah, well, it's 2-2. I guess you're right. 2-12 coming in today, and you lose yet again. So, I don't know, man. What do you? I guess here's what before I do my toxic trace things. I want to hear your side of the story because I kind of need some help. I do need some help before I just call the dogs off and start waving the white flag.
Well, Padres come play next. They stink too right now, so someone's got to win the next couple games. This team's just not very good right now, and I think they've also kind of just had, I think they're not a good team right now, and they've had the bad luck that they didn't have earlier. And yes, I mean, like the Samuel, there was a lot of things this week that just didn't go their way. I mean, like the Sal Stewart ABS challenge. I mean, on Saturday night, it's just been one of those weeks. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be able to recover or not. It just depends. So much of baseball is just, the sequencing of games. And yeah, I mean, this team could be absolutely terrible, and I think they are kind of terrible right now, but they can still find a way to sneak a few wins and kind of keep this thing afloat until Ellie and Hunter Green come back. But they're going to have to get lucky to stay in the race. Like, that's where they're at. They're going to have to get lucky. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but there's going to have to be some element of luck involved, in my opinion. Or someone just completely stepping up that we don't expect.
You want me to go or now or later? I'm going to get to Rhett Lowder. And I guess that's the problem. Is that's ultimately what I feel like we have relied upon far too often with this organization in the sense that we are preying on luck. And sometimes luck isn't in the traditional sense of winning a bunch of one-run games. It's that you have to be almost perfect when it comes to health. That's the real luck, if you want to call it luck, right? It's like every year I have to listen to a certain portion of this fan base tell me that the reason, and sometimes the front office, I must say that the front office also does this, where they say, well, if you look back in 2025, we had a situation where, TJ Friedel was dealing with a little bit of an injury, and Ellie had a soreness in his quad or his leg that allowed him not to play up to his capabilities. And you add in the fact that we lose a name your starter here and a name your starter there, and that's why we weren't good enough. That's part of the game. That is 100% what you should expect. Now, granted, I get it. You can't have a ton of injuries, and the Reds are probably in a spot right now where it's a little overboard. But it's not to the level where you have one of the worst run differentials in all of baseball. It's not to the level that you find yourself now yet again early in the season, so far out of the divisional race that you can't even take yourself that seriously with a chance to possibly win it. And again, who do you want to blame this on? I'm not here to even say that Tito could do a whole lot better, if I'm being honest. I can't sit here and say that, if we have Ellie, or if we would have name Hunter Green, even if Hunter Green was as good as he's ever been for the entirety of the season, it doesn't fix the overarching issue that I have, which is we either have already missed the boat. I'm trying to keep it a kid show, so I'm trying to use my words as wisely as I can here. We've already missed the boat here by spending a ton of money on things and areas that have not directly helped us win. and we've tried to mask it by going out and doing other things that help us. But ultimately, you can't swing and miss if you're the Cincinnati Reds and you have the predicament that you find yourself in. And for all the people that say the Castellinis don't spend the money, I'm not here to argue whether this ownership group or that ownership group would make everything better. I'm not doing that. But what I will say is, if you look inside of the division that we play within, there's not many big spenders. Even the Chicago Cubs, who spend certainly way more than we ever will probably spend unless the CBA gets figured out, they still don't spend up to the level that they could spend to be honest. Like, if you want to call people cheap, the Cubs owners are relatively cheap for what they're given and how much money they have versus how much they spend on the ball club. So I turn around and everyone wants to make a big deal about how, we don't spend enough money. We have missed the boat for years. Whether it's this ownership group that wants to step in and tell the general manager how to do his job, or whether it's the general manager who doesn't have enough balls to be able to tell the ownership group that this is a terrible move. We can't sign Suarez. We can't sign this guy. We have to take that money and we have to allocate it to this, and we have to make a trade at the deadline that you might not want to trade, but we got to trade Nick Lodolo last year at the deadline. I know we're in the race. I get it. But what's the ultimate goal? Is it just to sneak in the playoffs with 84 wins and get bounced after 2 games? Is that the goal? Is the whole goal of this whole entire thing just to try to please people, to make us look and feel like we might have a chance? I want, personally, just a really good baseball team once out of every 10 years. Once out of every 10 years, can you give me one team on the field that I could go to sleep in the beginning of the summer, wake up at the end of the summer, and know damn well that team is going to find themselves in the postseason? It's not even a cut and dry. It's not even a question. But we don't have a plan. Half the time we're in on prospects, half the time we're out on them. Half the time we're in on going and getting a big splash name, half the time we're out on them. We don't make trades when we have to make trades. We don't go and sell when we have to sell. And we certainly don't have a damn chance to go out and get somebody meaningful in free agency. So what do? We go and get the bottom of the barrel guys that cost us $10 to $20 million a year because we can't afford the Schwarbers of the world that would actually probably make a difference. So we get stuck with Candelario. We get stuck with Suarez. We get stuck with a guy like Brian Hayes coming over at the trade deadline to fix whatever problems we were supposed to have then. Now, I don't know if it's Nick Krall. I don't know if it's the Castellinis. I don't know if it's Tito. I don't know who it is. But the truth is that if it's a serious organization, at some point, somebody pays for what happens. You don't get to just keep getting your job handed to you year after year after year after year, and you don't improve on anything. In 2023, you have all these guys that are supposed to be the next core. And I'm like, you know what? Let's give the front office their kudos. Let's give them their flowers, because we might actually be onto something. And what do we find ourselves in a year or 2 or 3 years later? We literally have nobody, and I mean nobody, outside of Ellie from that core that you can believe in. Which goes back to development. It goes to everything. Like, is there anything that we can say that this organization does at a high level? The answer is no. Now, I'm not here to suggest that just because you fire somebody, it fixes the problem overnight. But what I am here to say is that if you allow something to go on for as long as it's gone on for, and there's no repercussions, nobody feels like the scapegoat is David Bell, that's the guy. So our guy all along that we knew was a problem was David Bell. Oh, by the way, David Bell, I think had a winning season multiple years in a row with piss poor rosters. I mean, I can name them right now. The guy was out there with Kevin Newman, Spencer Steer, Stuart Fairchild, Tyler Stevenson, hitting 4th, by the way, Henry Ramos, Nick Senzel, Mark Reynolds, is it Mark Reynolds, Mike Reynolds? I can't even remember. Jose Barrero, remember him? And Kurt Casale. That's who they were trying to win baseball games with 2 years ago. And not all of you, but a lot of you were telling me that he was the problem. If I'm David Bell right now, I would probably create an account on social media, put my face on it, put my name on it, and make fun of everybody. It has to get better. Somebody has to take ownership of this thing and say, it's not good enough. We are going to go in this direction. And you got plenty of people that do this relatively well with other organizations that I'm pretty sure would like a chance. I don't know. That's what I got.
Matt Reynolds. So you were looking for
Matt Reynolds. How could I mess that up?
Shout out to Matt Reynolds. Kept it alive. I think that might have been his last year in the big leagues.
As it is with most guys. I mean, I'll tell you what, most guys are probably in their basement. They have a Reds jersey hanging up in their basement, and all their friends go, "You played for the Reds?" Yeah, I did. It's my last stop before they sit me packing. I don't know. I don't know what you want to make of what I just said, but the reality is that's how I feel. I don't know how many other Reds fans feel that way, but the reality, like I said, I can't fathom continuing on in 2027 with the same people in the same positions and think that something's going to change and make it better. That's all.
Yeah, I'm at the point with Nick Krall in the front office. Like, you want to fire them. Kind of like where I was with David Bell at the end, because I think people think that's the solution. And if they did that and they went all in on hiring a smart Brewers guy or a smart Rays guy or a smart Guardians guy, and they let them have full control of the team, and they didn't let ownership get in the middle of it, they didn't let Tito get in the middle of it, that would work. But the problem is this organization is a small market team that won't operate like a small market team. They won't trade TJ Friedel until he is absolutely worthless down at AAA. They won't trade Nick Lodolo when you finally have him healthy because, well, we finally have a chance to win 83 games this year and get lucky if the Mets collapse. That's what's holding this organization back. And yes, they haven't been great on the free agent spending, but there's small market teams cannot have their identity be making smart free agent signings. That's just not what works. You don't see the Brewers winning because they make smart free agent signings. You see them winning because they make smart trades, and they have this unbelievable talent that they keep bringing up. A guy like Sal Stewart is a lot more valuable than anyone you could have went out and signed on the free agent market. You need more Sal Stewarts. You don't need to be perfect on your $15 million one-year free agent signings. You need more Sal Stewarts. And until this organization is able to acquire more Sal Stewarts, it doesn't matter what you do. You're just going to be spinning your wheels.
I agree, and I think it just ultimately goes back to the fact that we don't have good enough guys in certain positions that are excellent at their job. Like at the end of it all, it's not fair to Nick Krall. I get it's not fair to him probably in the grand scheme of things when you compare him to every single other general manager or baseball ops, whatever you want to call him. I don't want to gloss over Brad Meter or anything like that, but the truth is that those two guys, in order for the Reds to be in a spot where they're going to be consistently decent or good, if you want to call it that, they have to be elite at their jobs. And the Reds organization, ownership group, whatever term you'd like to use, they can't accept anything other than an elite person. And when was the last time, if ever, that the Reds have found themselves in a position where they're getting their guys poached from them? The other organizations are trying to call in to their guys and try to rip them away. Now, oddly enough, the guy that is the general manager currently for the Brewers is also a guy that started his career or was in the Reds front office at one time. But again, I make the point that it's just whether it's fair or not, Nick Krall and company has a problem in too many areas for them to continue to be here. And I would say, if you're going to go out and make a choice to remove him, let me be clear in saying this. He's not a scapegoat. We're not just going to get rid of him and try to just bring one guy in and not make any changes. I want the whole entire setup that we currently find ourselves in to be moved and removed. Now, I get it. You can't fire all the scouts. You're not going to remove all of maybe, I don't want to say lower level people within a front office. You can't just do that. But truth be told, I'm going out and I'm poaching guys away from these organizations that currently seem to be able to consistently be good with a payroll equal to or lesser than we find ourselves in and year out. And like it or not, Nick Krall has been abused, in my opinion, over the last, call it, handful of years here on some decisions that he's made that have not worked out to a level in which I would say is a high enough of an offense to be reprimanded. And whether that means you get put on the clock and you say, hey, like, here's the situation. If we don't see any progress within this certain amount of time, we're already making a move. But the truth is at the end of the day, who's going to go out and headhunt these other guys that we trust? And that, I think, is where the other portion of this lies, that I don't know if I have much faith in that either, if I'm honest with you. Now, none of that fixes today. None of that fixes tomorrow. And I know this team isn't this bad. I want everybody to know that I don't think this team, is 2-13 bad within their own division. They're not, whatever, you probably could let me know, but whatever their record is from 2011 to what it is now, they're not that bad. And it doesn't help that this division that we find ourselves in is a really good one. But when's enough? And as Reds fans, I think we've been through enough to find ourselves at some point in a spot where we have a decent team. And that's my bigger problem too, Nick, is that, and I know the peaks and valleys comment is what it is, but I'll put that aside and say that let's not even make fun of that comment, right? Because I think that was just an accidental quote that unfortunately he's going to have to live with. But the problem I really have with Nick Krall and company is that we try to be consistent, but we're consistently average. I would rather just be horrific, take your lumps, stockpile as much as you can stockpile, and then give me 3 or 4 or 5 years where we have a legitimate chance to be really, really good. And then we can do it again. Yet the problem is that this ownership group has to listen to the fact that we've gone since 1990 without advancing in the postseason. They don't want to go 2 or 3 years with absolute abysmal teams because they feel as if they're going to lose this fan base probably. Well, whatever, you lost of it already based off your comments and based off of the average teams you have a year in and year out. You're already at the bottom of the barrel. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off, as I said before, and let's get on with it. And let's find a way to actually have a legitimate baseball team at some point, because this isn't it. What we've been doing the last 3 or 4 years, it's not it.
Yeah, I mean, they said all the right things in 2022 in how to build a winner in a small market. It's basically like the same things that the Brewers do. But then they had that success in 2023, kind of unexpected, and they couldn't be patient enough to see it all the way through. Like, the Brewers didn't just magically happen overnight. They lost for year after year, and they slowly built. And then once they built, they didn't say, all right, well, we can't trade a player that could hurt us a little bit right now. They said, nope, we got to keep thinking forward. And it just seems like the Reds that too often are just stuck in this present moment of trying for short fixes and forgetting about the long-term fixes. Now, they're still going to have a team during Ellie De La Cruz's era in Cincinnati that can win, but beyond that, there's not really a lot of hope, in my opinion. And I also think that they're limiting their ceiling because they were worried about keeping their floor high right now, if that makes sense.
They go out and get Gavin Lux in a trade for Mike Sirota, who might end up being actually like a legitimate player at some point. And again, like it's not just that one trade, but it's a plethora of trades. It's the inability to be able to take that 2023 roster and know them better than everybody else and say, you know what? We know this from our own internal scouting. The reality is that CES is not the guy that he's not that guy. He's not a guy that's going to be able to do it at the big league level. Rhys Hines isn't a guy that's going to be able to do it at the big league level. Maybe it's Matt. And again, they obviously thought Matt McClain was that guy, and I can completely understand why. So I'm not blaming them and saying they have to get every single one of these right. But Matt McClain was a guy that teams were asking about or asking for, and they even offered him an extension, and obviously he didn't take it supposedly. But you don't move anybody. Will Benson had a great year. You don't move anybody. You already brought up TJ Friedl. You don't move anybody. Nobody moves.
Alexis Diaz was the most obvious at that point.
Exactly. He was. And you don't move anybody. Not just like, that's the craziest thing about it. It's not just that it was like, oh, we don't want to lose our core. But you're telling me out of all of those guys, you couldn't find a sucker team out there that you could move somebody for, they would take them, and you would get something in return. So when you find yourself in 2026, Nick, you have some more Sal Stewarts, like you've said. You have more depth in the minor leagues. And the reality is that this team right now is needing help from the minor leagues, and they have nobody to help them. And that is a severe knock, in my opinion, on the front office and their inability to have depth in this organization. We have no relief pitchers that can come and help us right now. We have very little no catching prospects, to be honest with you, until you get to Duno, which is obviously years away, in my opinion, until he gets to the big leagues. And you've had to burn through two options because you don't even have a catcher that you trust to put on the 40-man that's ready for the big leagues at any given moment. And, you as you've said before, you go out and you try to patch your holes with $15 to $20 million free agent signings who are over-the-hill guys or guys that are 30 in their mid-30s in the back end of their years, and you're banking on them having just one more career year. And guess what? We've gotten none of that.
Yeah, the funny thing is like the $1 million deals have been the ones that have paid off. And it's like, if you're going to have a crapshoot, like just sign more Nate Lowe's, sign more JJ Bledays, and maybe they'll pan out, maybe they won't. But, when you have to rely so heavily on when you're signing a player like Eugenio Suarez, it's a bad contract. Like it's you're overpaying for that type of player. And so like if you're relying on those overpaid contracts to be what sustains you, you're just never going to win as a small market team.
Yeah. And the thing is in 2022, I don't think you could have ever expected 2023 to go the way that it did. And unfortunately, I think that they overreacted in 2023 in the manner in which they just assumed all of these guys were going to go on and have above average or average big league careers, and they were going to be able to rely on them, and they've not been able to rely on hardly any of them outside of Ellie, obviously. Am I missing somebody when I say that? I mean, honest to God, we had plenty of young players.
Okay. Abbott and Steer, I think, have panned out as well as I could 100%. Have realistically hoped for either one of them. Maybe not to everyone else's expectations, but they have certainly met my expectations.
That's fair. But again,
they're not superstars.
Yeah, we're talking about a utility player that I do think has been exceptionally good at his role for this team, and Spencer Steer, he's been as good as you could have ever hoped for. But and I don't. Hopefully, people don't take offense to this because they think I'm a Steer hater, and I'm not. I'll openly say that Spencer Steer has been awesome. He's been an above-average player for this baseball team. But the truth is that if we are trying to build a foundation of a team that's supposed to go and break curses, I don't know if we're going to call it that yet, but like if they're supposed to go and do something that nobody has in this organization has been able to do since 1990 and just win at least one postseason series, let alone two or three, it can't be around the likes of a guy like Spencer Steer is what I'm getting at, right? It has to be elite level players, and they unfortunately thought that maybe Will Benson was going to be an elite level player. Now I say this knowing that clearly that's not the case anymore. They thought TJ Friedl, I guess, was going to be a player that could get you to the promised land. They thought that Christian Encarnacion Strand was going to be a player that could get you to the promised land. They clearly think that Nick Lodolo was going to stay healthy. And I would even take it one step farther, and I know you might hate me for saying this, but even Hunter Green at some point. Because it's like, if you're in a spot where you have the ability to take a guy that's at the peak of his career, in my opinion, in Hunter Green, at the pinnacle of his career. Last year, we'll see if I'm wrong in saying this. We'll look back. But last year, at some point, you have to cash in while there's an extreme level of value there. And this team, this organization has never done that and has not continued to do it. So we'll see if they can moving forward. But the thing is funny that you just said is Spencer Steer and Andrew Abbott. Andrew Abbott's, I guess, homegrown, but is a pretty high-level pick. And then you have Spencer Steer, who was obviously came over in a trade. Not a whole lot of homegrown talent of guys that you know. If it wasn't for Ellie, like, this thing would be a complete dumpster fire, to be honest, Nick. Which is funny because it goes back to your point of the lottery tickets. They accidentally signed this kid in the Dominican Republic.
You could probably even also add like Sal Stewart. Like just this year in particular, I mean, you can add some players together. Like, if it wasn't for Blade and Stewart, I mean, this team, would be 10 games under almost, it feels like, you know? And Chase Burns, kind of developing as quickly as he did, becoming a top of the rotation arm. They've had a few things go absolutely right. It's almost like, Trace, that you look back at 2023 and the team had a negative run differential that year. And they actually had a negative run differential even after Ellie got called up. I think it was, that's because it was the Kevin Newmans. No, they had a negative run differential after Ellie got called up at the end of the year. It was almost like someone needed to be the bad guy and wouldn't do it and be like, hey, like, we should probably temper expectations. We should go into 2024. Hey, let's be hopeful that we can continue to push this thing, but we still need to be in a development era where we're still trading away guys, where we're still, it shouldn't really have changed. 2023 shouldn't have drastically changed the plan, because there was, going into 2023, there was no one in Cincinnati that thought going into 2024, we're going to be, expecting to win a division. And it's like they just, no one could say to ownership or whoever, hey, it's still going to be another year. And it feels like it very obvious, and this might be very hindsight right now, but it felt very obvious that they still needed another year of trying to get this together and continuing to build. And they just tried to skip that step because this fan base is livid. And I think they were worried about pissing off the fan base. Well, all you did was you pushed it back farther, and now you've just made it 10 times worse. You should have just bit the bullet right then, and they would have got crushed. I mean, if this team would have traded away guys at the end of 2023, they wouldn't have signed guys going into 2024. They wouldn't have signed a Candelario going into 2024. This fan base would have crushed them. But I think it's worse now.
Yeah, I think it's very, very evident, or pretty clear, that if they did not sign Candelario, that it would have opened up the opportunity to certainly get other guys that we've been clamoring for at other times throughout free agency, or even at the trade deadline. Sometimes, like, if you are within a race, you can kind of maybe take on a little bit of a bad contract for the remainder of a season, or buy out somebody's contract to be able to get you maybe a deal that otherwise wouldn't have made sense before. But when you hamstring yourself and you are paying the likes of the Moustakas of the world, or the Candelarios of the world, or whoever else you want to name now, and I don't want to put Suarez in that mix quite yet because I think it's a little early to say that. And at least Suarez was just a 1-year deal, to be clear. And Cabrian Hayes now, I guess, is a part of that mix. It's just not good. I do want to clear up something. My apologies. The Reds did advance in 1995. They swept the Los Angeles Dodgers. So shout out to us back in 1995. My apologies. I was definitely out of diapers by then, but it wasn't too long out of diapers. So there's that. Rhett Lowder, I guess we'll jump to him really quickly, Nick. I guess just a little concerning. I know he just came back. He's relatively fresh in regards to his game reps, but just was not the Rhett Lowder that I'm hoping to have Rhett Lowder is not a guy that I don't think is going to overpower a ton of hitters, in my opinion. He's going to have to rely on pitch mix. He's going to have to rely on hitting spots. He just didn't do that much. And to be fair to him, like he survived in advance. And I know everyone's going to blame the bullpen and want to talk about the Sam Moll play as maybe the deciding factors of the game. But bigger picture speaking, things that probably at some point will be a little bit more important than just wins and losses will be how these guys ultimately progress throughout the remainder of the year and what they look like going into 2027 after the CBA situation sorts itself out. Not a great start, but I guess I'll say that he's still healthy, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, kind of. I think there's two ways to kind of look at this. First off, I don't think if in a perfect world, Rhett Lowder's not making this start for the Reds, he would have been making another rehab start for AAA. So I think you have to give him a little bit of grace in that regard. Like, he only made one rehab start, and the Reds said, all right, big boy, get at him. Like, that's not typically the way the Reds have done it. They've given guys at least two. I mean, remember Hunter Green came back, had 3 rehab starts before he started. So I think you have to give some fairness to Rhett. I think another good thing is he only gave up 1 hit and only 2 hard hit balls. So it's not like he came in and got lit up. I think if that would have been the case, I would have been maybe more concerned. But like 5 walks from Rhett Lowder, your control artist. Like I just have to think like Nick Krall, Brad Meter, Tito, everyone in the Reds organization is like, are you kidding me? Like even Rhett Lowder has the walk bug that just I've never seen anything like this. I mean, there are multiple pitchers on this team this year that have made a good living of being able to throw strikes that can't throw strikes. Like, I don't know what it is. Some of it is bad luck. Some of it is bad development with the relievers, the Maxwells, the Mays, the Connor Phillips. That's not bad luck. That's those guys. But like Rhett Lowder walking 5, it's just like, when will it end? Like,
yeah. What do you make of Derek Johnson also taking a leave of absence? I don't want to bring conspiracy theories into this whole thing, but I haven't been on since that news broke, and it's a situation that seems pretty obvious that if there were to be a conspiracy theory, it's the fact that the Reds have found themselves their either lack of development or their inability to be able to find ways to throw strikes seemingly pairs up with the timing of a leave of absence that seems coincidental at worst. Like I don't know if this winds up being something where the Reds make an announcement as the year progresses on that they decided to make a move and that this was the way in which they wanted it to go. I don't know. I'm not here. Maybe it's just something small. Maybe he has a family matter that he needs to address, and that's all this is about. But it does seem coincidental that the Reds find themselves for the first time probably in the history of maybe his tenure where you'd say that people are probably losing faith on him.
Yeah, I did before. I'm not going to speculate on that. Like, I don't know. He's out for personal reasons. I'll wait till there's something more on that. I don't want to, say something and this guy actually legitimately, like that's not fair. But I will say what my feelings were before that was definitely, I was probably at that point the furthest I've ever been in Derek Johnson's tenure where, like, I have lost a lot of faith because the only guys that have seemed to have panned out have been the guys that were the closest to surefire things. And it's just been guy after guy after guy not develop. And it can't all be on Derek Johnson, but I mean, he is the director of pitching or whatever his title is. And like, they're not putting guys in the right spot or what. I don't know what it is. Like this pitching development, it's hard to believe how far it got away from the Reds and how quickly it did.
It's an excellent point. I mean, because this front office was in a spot where people were getting promoted just a few years ago. David Bell got an extension. And I know this sounds like maybe like Monday morning quarterbacking a little bit here, but I guess nothing is more poetic to the rash decision making that I feel like this Reds team organization, I should say, this organization found themselves in than the decision to fire David Bell after you just extended him. And then you go out and you hire a manager and the likes of Terry Francona, who, oh, by the way, decided to step away from the game, and the organization that he'd left hasn't skipped a beat. If anything, they got a little bit even, like it didn't seem as if they missed the impact that he was making. And it feels as if that was a very affordable. Terry Francona is making, I think, the second most of all managers in Major League Baseball.
Maybe we don't have any public confirmation on that.
But I'm just saying, like, he's making he's making a lot of money. And it feels as if this organization decided, oh no, what can we do to try to save face? Let's go and do this. And that's the ultimate real problem that I have right now, is it feels like there's no plan anymore. Like at one time, it felt like there might have been a plan, but we've lost the plot. And we started making trades that made no sense. We started making roster decisions that made no sense. We start giving guys playing time that make no sense. And Tito's been a part of that. And Tito, to be fair, can manage however in which way he wishes to. And I don't think that, as I've said before, I don't think he could win the Kentucky Derby with donkeys. And right now he's got a bunch of donkeys out there trying to run a race that just ultimately they have no chance of winning. So it's not all on Tito and the fact that they're not winning. But I will say it's a pretty clear indication of the way in which this organization as a whole managed themselves in a spot in which things were probably trending in the right direction, but they went out and made some rash decisions that ultimately never vibed with the way in which they were trending in the first place. You went and got a manager that seems like he likes veterans over younger players, wants to give guys longer leashes that show skill sets that have lower ceilings and higher floors. And the reality is that what got this team into a spot where everybody was excited was that they were playing guys that seemingly had low floors but high ceilings, and they were trying to maximize every ounce of skill set they had out of guys, and they have not done that since making the move to go to Terry Francona. And again, this isn't a shot at Terry. I'm not trying to say Tito's the problem, but I am saying that it feels as if we are sending, at least to myself, mixed messages on what you want this organization to be. Like on one hand, we want to sit here and act as if we're supposed to be a small market team, and then on the other hand, we go out and we spend a bunch of money in an area or multiple areas where it just doesn't make sense.
I think Tito's day-to-day and his managing, I don't think matter a whole lot. I think it's more, to me, probably more annoying than it actually like mattering, like the in-game decisions he makes and the lineups he makes. I don't think that matters. Now, his influence on the organization matters, I think, quite significantly. And to me, the most concerning thing is you had Terry Francona being super successful in Cleveland. And you just mentioned Cleveland hasn't missed a beat. Well, Francona's kept saying over and over, if you watch any of the interview, that he says, Cincinnati's like a breath of fresh air. It's like getting away from some of it seems like, if you're reading between the lines, it seems like he has a lot more influence in Cincinnati than he had in Cleveland. And what Cleveland did with Tito, they've continued to do. And it's like the reason Cleveland was good was because of the decisions that they were making, the smart analytical decisions. And so like how much influence he has in decisions outside of just like managing the game and your day to day, how much of the decisions is he making in terms of personnel and not trading guys away, and all that kind of stuff. That to me is what I think is the most concerning thing.
It's a fair point. All right, we have some super chats. Let's get into those. We have some people in here that I want to say thank you to. You guys have supported this show from the onset. We need all the support we can get at this very moment because, as you know, this Reds team's not providing a lot of it themselves. Tim Barnes says, what is scary is that if we can't win with this core, then we are heading back to more 100-loss seasons and years of last place. That's what stings. Possibly, but at I wouldn't say that they're in a spot where they'd be that bad. Like, I think Sal Stewart is a great young prospect. The issue is that probably too high of a percentage of this fan base expects him to be an all-star level, 3-hole hitter, 2-hole hitter, carry the lineup type of player. He's just got here. And I know he has confidence in himself, so I'm not sitting here saying that he doesn't believe that he can't be one of the best players in the league. It's like we put so much emphasis and so much pressure on guys that have never proven that they can even do it. And some guys that breaks, some guys it doesn't. I don't know. Maybe Matt McClain was just completely naive when he came to the big leagues in 2023, played unbelievably well, started having some pressure put on his shoulders, didn't respond to that all that well. Turn around, you get an injury to a very, very important spot, and now you find yourself in a spot where Matt McClain doesn't look the same, and now we have question marks surrounding that. But what is the core now? I mean, honestly, Nick, what core are we talking about?
Two guys that are on the IL, I mean, the core right now would be Ellie, Hunter, Burns, Sal. That'd be like your probably 2 on each side, and then maybe you extend it a little more to like Rhett. I don't think Lodolo is part of the core because he's got 1.5 years left. Shorter probably if things continue the way they're going, or it should be shorter. Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably those 4. I would love to see McClain dig his way back into a number 5. But yeah, that would be the core right now.
Schmick Schmack says, these rants are exactly what Krull needs to hear. Please never change, Trace. You're the voice for all of us here. I don't know if I'm the voice for everybody. I know that I obviously have a portion of the fan base that probably feels how I do. I'm sure there's some people that are just, as soon as I started screaming and yelling, they turned off the podcast or turned off the show. So, but it's the hardest thing to do with this job, if we're calling this a job, is to be honest and unbiased, because ultimately it could hurt your product. Like, the last thing I want to do is get on here and tell everybody that this is a whole waste of time. This whole entire summer, this team is horrible. You shouldn't watch them. Go do something else. That's the last thing that I want to tell you to do, because ultimately we need people to be able to support us in this show. But on the other hand, the thing the reason that I think that we resonate probably with a lot of people, and that we have a very, very, very large a viewership outside of the ridiculous consistency of Nick Kirby and his relentless effort of being able to put as much content up as he does, is that you do get the perspective and you do get the raw emotion of what this fan base feels at times, and also you get perspective that doesn't have any influence over it. And I think it comes from a place of having a general ability to be knowledgeable about the subject matter that you're speaking on. Anybody can get on here and say some ridiculous stuff, and I'm not trying to talk and say that other people that do similar things that we do that they don't know what they're talking about. But at times when you listen, it doesn't take long to figure out, like, this isn't the most unrealistic thing I've ever heard in my life. We try to be realistic on this show. So we're going to continue to try to do our best. We hope you listen. But I also know if you've watched this team over the last 2 weeks, you're probably asking yourself, like, what the hell's the point? Because I've asked myself that. Andrew Scobie says, where is Walt Jocketty when you need him? At least we had teams that were successful for a couple of seasons. No, Dick Williams was pretty good too. Like, I don't know who to give credit to at times when the Reds have had success. Do you have any?
I think Walt did a pretty good job. Did leave the cupboard pretty bare on his way out, and I don't know if people remember the 2016 and 2017 version of the Cincinnati Reds, but that was a direct result of that, and the fact that they hung on too long to that. Like, they had their window, and they should have moved on quicker than they did. They tried to drag it out longer, which, again, that's the biggest problem with this organization, is that they don't know when to throw up the white flag and say, hey, it's not going to happen this year. And that's, I think, as much as anything, what holds this organization back.
Chase Wellman, who's been a member for 15 months, with the quote: "People who run ball clubs, they think in terms of buying players. Your goal shouldn't be to buy players; it should be to buy wins. And in order to buy wins, you need to buy runs." The problem is that the secret's out on all that, you know? The secret's out on all that. There's more analytical departments. There's feels as if everybody knows to a certain extent what they should be doing. But I do think now the way in which the wild card is set up, there are opportunities to take advantage of people when they have a raw emotion of wanting to try to do something outside the window. And I've said that how many times on this show, Nick? How many times? And you've said it too. I'm not trying to say that but there has been so many times at the deadline where we could have absolutely probably fleeced teams because they were overreactionary. And we, to be fair, have stood pat a little bit, but we've stood pat with the inability to be able to move guys when we could have moved them. And I know that there's certain part in the fan base that said back in 2023 we should have sold the farm to try to make that year a possibility of winning something because you never know what it's going to happen. Look at what's going on now. None of those guys are any good. And I would just say to those folks, so you're telling me you're basically just wanting to sell the farm to try to have a shining prayer on a bunch of rookies that didn't know what the hell they were doing and turned out to not even be that great of players to your own admission. I don't know. Maybe we could have sold some of those guys.
Yeah, there's plenty of teams that will, prey on teams that are desperate to try to win now, like, trading Gavin Lux for Mike Sirota.
Yeah, exactly.
The secret's out, Trace. But the difference between the haves and the have-nots, at least in the small market teams, is who's willing to suck up the negative press. Like the Brewers get crushed. I think people in Cincinnati think like teams like the Brewers and the Guardians that keep winning, like everyone's just so happy all the time. They get crushed by their fans all the time. Like they won't make that big trade to try to get us over the hump. As it sucks. We've only made the playoffs 6 straight years, but we've only made it to the American League Championship Series, the National League Championship Series. They're never going to be a World Series winner. Like they deal with that. But that's the secret. It's who can make these painful moves. Like I'm sure like when the Brewers traded Corbin Burns, like that's not fun. Like no one in the front office wants to trade a player of the talent of Corbin Burns, but they do it and they keep bringing in talent after talent. I'm sure the Guardians didn't want to trade Francisco Lindor. I mean, he basically was almost Ellie De La Cruz in Cleveland when he was in that point, but they do it and you're not going to hit on every single one of them. You'll miss some, and those teams have done it too. But when you do it over and over again, it makes you almost foolproof because you just have so much talent that it rises up.
Yeah, I mean, people don't want to hear this, but the Brewers have like the number 1 prospect in baseball.
They do every year because they keep acquiring so much talent. Like, it's not rocket science. It's just keep acquiring talent.
And I would say that the bigger, you say that, but I think that the bigger area that the Brewers have found a way to be good at that the Reds clearly have not is that they have the ability, in my opinion, to have internal scouting and then also external scouting that is good enough that allows them to be able to know when they have an advantage on their side or not on their side. Like you don't you don't just magically go and make a trade for a guy internally that everybody's high on, that everybody loves. And then all of a sudden they wind up having the issues that a Devin Williams has down the line. And you turn around and you look at all the guys that you brought in and you're like, I mean, how do they keep hitting on these guys? Clearly there's some, whether it's just pure eyeball scouting or whether there's some other analytical combination approach to the eyeball scouting, that whatever formula that they have, They clearly have the recipe for success, and we have to find a way to get a little bit closer to that. Let's see here. Live Long Gaming says Andrew Friedman has Kral's number on speed dial. Yeah, it's like, let's go. Let's call that sucker. Big Red Machine says, so who do we have that is even sellable without giving up on any critical or crucial, excuse me. I'm going to redo this. So who do we have that is even sellable without giving up on crucial players that are considered our core without blowing it all up? Please list. I think that the list is pretty much everybody, in my opinion, outside of Ellie and Chase Burns. That's my list. Now,
and Sal, unless someone would just
yeah. See, this is where you can't do this, Nick.
Trade Sal Stewart.
No, I'm not saying you trade Sal Stewart, but I am gonna say that if you're not going to be willing to extend anybody and you don't trust them enough to extend them, then you're telling me you don't trust them enough to be able to move them for some high-level package deal that is considered an oversell to the umpteenth degree. Now, people are going to hate me for saying, I love Sal Stewart. I would extend Sal Stewart. Blah, but for me, Ellie, Chase Burns. There's anybody else you can trade. And I wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, this is the worst front office in the history of baseball.
Alfredo Duno, I'd go and put him on that list.
I honestly, I wouldn't even put Alfredo Duno. Alfredo Duno's on the list. His stock has never been higher. In fact, Alfredo Duno might be. I mean, the problem is the Reds don't have even another catching prospect. So that's the real problem. Is I don't even have a fallback to say, well, if he doesn't pan out, so sorry. I know that's pretty vague, Big Red Machine, but that's my list. We've been here before. I've sat here and I've watched this before. I've heard about how, like I said before, like CES, Tyler Stevens, like how many players were guaranteed to be pretty serviceable players for this team, and they wound up being guys that we never got a return on. Too many. All right. Speaking of returns, the ultimate return, Nick, if you can find a way to pick the right one. Nobody has a bigger decision if you're going to Richter and Phillips.
Yeah, engagement ring shopping should feel exciting because it is. At Richter and Phillips Jewelers, their team makes the entire process easy and stress-free. You don't need to know anything about going in. They'll walk you through diamonds, ring settings, and every detail step by step in a relaxed, no-pressure environment. Whether you're shopping big or working within a budget, they'll help you find the perfect ring and make sure you leave feeling confident and excited, but not overwhelmed. Richter and Phillips has been helping Cincinnati couples get engaged for more than 130 years. They were doing this before the Bengals were even a team. Book your appointment today using the link in our YouTube or podcast description.
JJ Bleday, also at the top of my list, by the way. Now, I don't know who's asking for, JJ Bleday per se, but
National League Player of the Month?
Yeah, I'd be on the horn. Gino versus Tito. Nick.
We had some interesting comments today. This was an article from Gordon Wittenmeyer of the Cincinnati Enquirer talking about Terry Francona and Eugenio Suarez and maybe not seeing eye to eye on the World Baseball Classic. The quote from Francona about Gino was, he didn't get very many at-bats in the tournament, the World Baseball Classic. He did everything he could to prepare for the season. When he got back, he went down to the minor league side for more at-bats. So I'm not being remotely critical, but it was disjointed. Tito went on to say, if you look at a lot of the World Baseball Classic guys, there's been a lot of injuries. A lot of guys are struggling because it's different. I know a lot of people poo-poo spring training, but when you do it right, there's a reason for having it. And then he got hurt and missed time again. Gino responded, I guess, to this. I guess Gord must have asked him his thoughts. Gino said, I just lost my timing when I got to the regular season. The World Baseball Classic had nothing to do with it. After the World Baseball Classic, everything was good for me. All right, now, Trace, when I first saw this, like, oh, this is interesting. I feel like maybe this could be a little over-exaggerated, blah, blah, blah. But then you get into a baseball game on Sunday. I don't know if people are watching in the ninth inning. Reds are trailing 5-3. That's 2 runs they were behind. They got a runner on base, and Edwin Arroyo came to the plate. And Edwin Arroyo hit with Eugenio Suarez on the bench, a guy that hit 49 home runs last year, that was brought in specifically to hit home runs for this ball club, and a home run would have tied the game. So, interesting, these quotes came out, and then Eugenio Suarez was not pinch hit in the ninth inning on Sunday.
Yeah, you can put the tinfoil hat on if you'd like, Nick. I think that Tito clearly is not a fan of the World Baseball Classic, and I also think it's pretty evident that he's not a fan based off the fact that there was some guys that they told that they were not allowed to play in the World Baseball Classic. People might forget, but Emilio Pagan decided to reconsider at some point, and Ellie De La Cruz also was announced that he was playing, and then all of a sudden, just retroactively, it was a mistake, and magically he wasn't playing, and he's not really sure how that got out, and that wasn't true. If you want me to pick sides, who am I on, who am I not on? I'd like to think the guy that's had a pretty long big league career, more than likely, isn't struggling just because he wasn't at Tito's spring training. I'd also like to point out that Matt McLain was also at Tito's spring training and was unbelievable. The guy was excellent. All-time spring training guy in Matt McLain. And then he gets to the regular season, and if you do it right, I guess you still can struggle in the big leagues, as Matt McLain has proven. Tito has reached the age, and I think that I probably will reach that if it hasn't been evident already by the way in which I say things at times, where he clearly just doesn't care, in my opinion, what others think about some of his opinions. I do think he's very wise in the way in which he goes about his press conferences. I think he's wise. He's very, very close to the vest, even though it doesn't seem that way with what he says at press conferences. So I say that in saying this wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't just some loose-lipped, off backhanded comment that just so happened to come out. This was clearly a way in which of him voicing some frustration that he has in the fact that, Eugenio Suarez has struggled this year for them, was supposed to be a little bit of a guy that could kind of jumpstart this offense more times than not, and he's been basically a dead battery, not jumpstarting anything. I mean, he's been bad, and Tito's frustrated by it, so he's blaming it on the World Baseball Classic to a certain extent, and I guess to my not to my surprise, but Eugenio Suarez is not biting. He's not biting on it. I don't know. What do you make of it, if any, Nick?
I think that Suarez's struggles being blamed on the World Baseball Classic is probably a little bit of a reach. I think it probably has more to do with the fact that the guy is 34 years old, had a sub 300 on base percentage last year, struck out in 30% of his plate appearances, and was probably due for some regression based on last year hitting 49 home runs. Hadn't hit more than 31 in a year since 2019. I think that probably had more to do with it. Now, I don't think the World Baseball Classic does the Cincinnati Reds any favors. Like, I think it's a great event. I think it's cool. I think I think it was awesome seeing Suarez compete. But I don't think it helps the Reds. Like, we can argue about how much does it hurt, and I think there's good debate there, but it does not help the team. And I think Suarez in particular was really a weird case because most of these big league players, when they go to the World Baseball Classic, they play pretty much every day. They get plenty of at-bats. But Venezuela did not play Suarez that much. Like, he didn't get a lot of at-bats. So I think that the reason for Suarez's struggle is probably not the World Baseball Classic. It has very little to do with it. But I also don't think it helped him either. I also don't know how much these comments help anything either with the situation as well. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I don't think this is that, but I did find these comments interesting, and I did find it very interesting that Suarez did not get an at-bat today in the 9th inning.
Yeah, just doing some quick research here on kind of guys, like notable names that played in the World Baseball Classic that maybe have struggled a bit. Cal Riley, but like that brings up the question with Cal Riley. Like, are we expecting him to put forth the same type of year that he had last year again? Like, that's such a high bar to be able to try to get to and or exceed. It seems ridiculous. Same with Aaron Judge. The Mariners, I guess if anybody should be upset, the Mariners might be overly upset at the World Baseball Classic. Consider that Julio Rodriguez is another guy that appears to be struggling a bit. And then, I don't know. I mean, you got Acuna Jr., Bryce Harper. But again, these production dips are going off of an elite level player, like guys that I just are like, to your point, are these guys just getting? Some of these guys are just getting older. I mean, they're outside their window of what I would consider maybe their prime, and they're gonna maybe slowly degrade and or fall off a cliff, as some do. But I'll tell you, Bryce Terang seems to be pretty good at baseball still. O'Neal Cruz seems to be pretty good at baseball.
You wonder if it maybe has more impact on these older players, because it feels like every guy that you read off that's had the struggles are guys that are more established, that were veterans, whereas O'Neal Cruz, Bryce Terang are very young players that kind of are able to go play in a weird event and kind of bounce back. And again, I think that there's probably in each of those cases another explanation that makes more sense than blaming the World Baseball Classic. But I don't think the World Baseball Classic helps anything either. Like, I just don't see, like, you can't say that, well, Gino playing the World Baseball Classic helped him prepare for the season better, because I would encourage you to look at how he played in the World Baseball Classic. He was not used, and he would have had a more regulated spring training. So again, I don't think that's the main excuse, but I also don't think it helped anything either.
Yeah, to your point, I mean, ultimately, what do the comments help? It feels as if it's something in which it's the issue that I have with it. If I have an issue with it, is this: I don't see the productivity in it. I think if you're trying to safeguard somebody and you're trying to maybe give a little bit of a built-in excuse for a guy like Eugenio, you word it in a little bit of a different manner that kind of is a little softer blow than basically just outrighting the fact that the WBC, the comment about, a lot of people poo-poo on spring training, but if you do it right, I think that's a clear indicator, in my opinion, that whatever Eugenio did was wrong, if that makes sense. And that's where the riff, if there is one, would exist with Suarez in the comments that he made. If he would have just kept it in the sense that, hey, it's a different type of year this year. We love the fact that that Suarez got his opportunity to play for his home country. We love the fact that he delivered in the clutch for them. It's something that he'll probably remember for the rest of his life. But truth be told, it's something different. And when you're preparing for a season, the reality is that that's not the traditional way of preparing for a season, and it's probably affecting some of his ability this year so far, but we still believe in Eugenio, blah, 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 blah. But he didn't do that. He basically said that he didn't do it our way, and he's paying the cost of it right now.
He did in that article, I think at some point, did kind of say some other things about Suarez, some other nice things that were in there. That was just the specific World Baseball Classic thing, and said that he could get hot, and he's been a streaky player, and he's gotten hot. So he did say all that as well, just for full clarity. But
fair. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully.
And again, I probably would have said this was more of a very just a clickbait story, but the fact that he didn't bat in the 9th inning was just blew my mind today. Like, that was the thing that I was like, whoa, okay. And now I'm taking a step back and looking at this a little bit closer.
Yeah, well, we'll continue to keep an eye on it, I guess. If anything else, much like reality TV shows, we could use some drama. I mean, if it's going to be this bad on the field, we could get some scuttlebutt in the locker room, or we can kind of start to hear some rumors about Nick Craw going around and doing something with another executive and behind closed doors, and there's some fist fight or whatever it is that we could do to maybe get the get the storylines popping, we'll take it. I'll take it. I mean, if this team's going to go 2-13 against their own division, we need some kind of excitement. Matt McClain, oddly enough, as soon as you're out on him, he comes back. He has a couple good days, Nick. And here we go again. What do you make of it? I don't know at this point. I am at this moment, I have no clue what to believe about Matt McClain. At times, you see the pop, you see the power, you see the ability to hit the ball over dead center field on a ball that's away that feels like he might not even have gotten all of it. And then there's times where he goes 1 for his last 29, and he looks like he can't hit the broadside of a barn, and you think you're completely done with watching it. You've always been a McClain guy. Yeah.
You called this when Arroyo got promoted, that he'll get hot. I mean, 3 home runs, whatever stat line he puts up while Ellie's gone, 3 home runs is going to make it look better. It didn't really change anything for me with Matt McClain. I still just go back to, I don't think there's a better option right now than playing Matt McClain at second base when Ellie comes back. I think that's the best option. It clearly has the most upside of any move that the Reds can make. So yeah, Matt McClain's had a disappointing season. He hasn't developed as quickly and as fast as I think I and certainly everyone else would have liked. But it was nice to see him just kind of show that ability this weekend. That it's still there. But I mean, look, this guy's only 26 years old, hasn't even played in 300 career big league games. Today was game number 297 of his big league career, so he's still developing. But it was nice to see him have a really good weekend, and you hope that he can springboard that, because no matter what your thoughts are on Matt McClain, the best version of the Cincinnati Reds is a good Matt McClain at second base. Period. End of story.
I agree with that part of it. I will push back a little bit on the standpoint that he's developing, and he's got. I do get the sentiment that he's not been here a long time, but he's at an age at which, to be honest, we should start to have some more production if he's a legitimate big league player. I don't think he's kind of like the likes of Ellie making 30, 40, 50 errors or whatever the hell he made a couple years ago, where you're like, yeah, that's probably going to get fixed. I think Matt McClain is who he is, which fundamentally is a really, really good defensive player. Like, I know he made the error today. I get that. And I know that everyone can kind of, pile on the comment that, oh, wow, he looked really good today. But the truth is an overarching view of Matt McClain, I don't think I have to worry about the glove. And that only leads to the fact that he has to be even what I would call like just serviceable with the bat. And there are times where he looks beyond serviceable. There are times where he looks like he could be a top of the order type of bat that you could rely on. And when you have both of those things combined, you have an excellent player, a guy that you genuinely could build a core around, one in which we thought we had with Matt McClain. And that's the hardest part with him when you're trying to grade him or come up with a solution on what to do with him. Similar to TJ Friedel, it feels disgusting that we might find ourselves in a spot where you get nothing in return for him, and you just basically have to give up on him. I understand why the Reds are hell-bent on continuing to give him opportunity after opportunity, because if he's the better version of himself that we've seen before, he changes the whole complexity, the outlook to this organization over the next 2 or 3, maybe even 4 years. But this is professional baseball, and you can't go 1 for your last 30 all that often, and he's been horrific at the plate this year. But I don't know what you do. I really don't, Nick. I want to believe in Matt McClain. I just don't know where it all went wrong. And that's the part where I go back to this front office. I just go back to everything, and I just bang my head up against the wall trying to figure out what the hell's going on, because it just seems like nobody that I thought was going to be a serviceable player in 2026 outside of Ellie De La Cruz has delivered on that. And that's concerning. Very concerning. Because we have to develop guys. They have to get better. And if nothing else, just stay the same. We've had, how many guys have we just gotten worse? Too many. All right. Tyler Stephenson's cost himself a lot of money this year, and maybe he's going to turn that around here and have a Joey Votto-esque, not total Joey Votto, but Joey Votto-esque type season where he just has this unbelievable run over the next month or 2 months here that gets himself back to a spot where we could have expected him to be. But it's nice to see him playing better. And Tyler Stephenson, outside of Ellie De La Cruz, is the most valuable player on this roster right now if you want to have a serviceable team.
Yeah, Tyler Stevenson has been a worse hitter than Matt McClain this year. So was Eugenio Suarez by a pretty wide margin at this point. Yeah, Tyler Stevenson, it was really nice to see him have a good day because it's been a brutal season for him in a contract year, which I'm sure he's not loving. So good to see him have a good day. And to be honest, people probably aren't ready for this part of the conversation, but what Tyler Stevenson does over the next 6 or 7 weeks, if the Reds don't turn this thing around, matters a hell of a lot because he could drastically increase his trade value at the trade deadline. He's a free agent at the end of the year. So if you are not in this race, you have to trade Tyler Stevenson unless you are very confident that you can sign an extension with him because he's not qualifying offer guy. I mean, it is that dire. So if you're not out of this race, so what he does, I mean, and he doesn't have to do, it's not like he's a first baseman. Like he doesn't have to hit lights out, but if he shows, oh, hey, this guy is a lot better hitter than our catcher, which most catchers across baseball don't hit very well, it could really be beneficial to the Reds. So he's a guy I'm going to be watching really closely for multiple reasons.
Yeah, we need a lot of guys to stay relevant until the trade deadline, and then we have to make a decision and make the hard choice to probably move some of these guys. As I said before, guys that are unbelievably hot, that appear to be maybe playing well above their MLB ceiling, we have to make tough decisions on. And if we're wrong about it, we're wrong about it. But I highly doubt that as you said before, more times than not, we're going to be wrong about it. It just feels like at times, Nick, that we, as a fan base even, fall in love with players that come in and they start playing really, really well, and it's like, well, you can't trade him. Like, why can't you trade J.J. Bleday? Why can't you trade Nathaniel Lowe? Why can't you trade Tyler Stevenson? Why can't you trade Nick Lodolo? Why can't you trade Andrew Abbott? Why? Do you think, honestly, that those players are the difference makers between being able to go and win a championship versus not? When you watch the rest of the league, or is it just like bias towards the fact that you've fallen in love with some of these guys because they wear your uniform that you like and they turn out to be players that have helped your team win some games? We'll see what happens at the trade deadline. But Tyler Stevenson, good point by you. If he's able to play really, really well over the next, call it 4 or 5 weeks, it's going to help this organization a significant amount by the fact that they might have somebody that they can move to get something in return that might even help the next segment, which is Reds MILB.
All right, Reds MILB presented by our friends at 78 Cigars. Cincinnati legend Anthony Munoz has a new venture, and we're fired up to partner with it here on Chatterbox Reds. Introducing 78 Cigars, a premium cigar line from the Hall of Famer himself. If you love great cigars in Cincinnati football history, this is the perfect combination. You can grab 78 Cigars right now at both Montgomery locations or over at Creekside Cigar Company. You can also check them out online. Just head to anthonymunoz.com, click on the 78 Cigars page, and learn more or place your order today. All right, let's start off with AAA Louisville. They fell 4-3 to Memphis. Bats now 33-29. They are 5 games back in the International League West Division. TJ Friedel, 1 for 4 with a double. Friedel so far 3 for 14. It's a 176 average since being optioned to AAA. Hector Rodriguez, 2 for 4, hit his 11th home run of the year. Austin Hendrick was 1 for 4. Michael Toglia on base twice, 1 for 3 with a double and a walk. Now, more importantly, on the pitching side, 2 notable performances. Jose Franco goes 3 innings, just gives up 1 run, only 1 walk, and struck out 4. Last 5 games for Franco down at AAA, pretty good stuff. 1.79 ERA, only 3 earned runs in 15 1/3, 17 strikeouts, 8 walks. Another guy, a very impressive day on Sunday, Julian Garcia throws 3 hitless innings, no walks with 3 strikeouts. He actually started the game for the Bats. I think it was more of an opener type situation. I don't think they're really trying to stretch him out or anything. But he's had a pretty solid season, 3.77 ERA and 28 2/3, has 42 strikeouts and only 11 walks. All right, down to Double-A, the Chattanooga Lookouts. They won 10-1 over Pensacola. Now 31-26. They have a half-game lead in the Southern League North Division with 12 games left in the first half, and they're going to have to earn it because their final 2 series of the first half are against Rocket City, who they're ahead by 2 games on, and then the Knoxville Smokies, who they only have that half-game lead on. So the next 2 weeks going to be very consequential for the Lookouts. Carlos Jorge was 1 for 4. Good day from Cam Collier, 2 for 4 with a homer and a double, his 7th of the season. Leo Balcazar 0 for 4. Jay Allen, he stays hot. He's been playing very well of late, 2 for 4, stole his 10th base of the season. And Jose Acuna really coming on for the Lookouts. He goes 7 innings, just gives up 3 hits, 1 run, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts. Last 3 starts for Acuna, 1.78 ERA, 24 strikeouts in 20 2/3 innings. All right, down to High A, the Dayton Dragons had a tough loss. They lost 8-0 to West Michigan. The Dragons now 31-26. They're 3 games out of the Midwest League East Division with just 9 games to play. They lost 4 out of 6 to last place West Michigan. Now, they had a tough break on Sunday. They had to face Tarek Skubal on a rehab assignment. How about that? You're playing the last place team thinking you're going to rack up some wins, and you got to go against Tarek Skubal for 5 innings. Dragons only had 2 base runners off Skubal, but shout out to Victor Acosta and Jacob Friend. Both had singles off of him. Alfredo Duno, he's cooled off a little bit, 0 for 3, 0 for his last 18 with 0 walks. Carlos Sanchez, 1 for 4. Kind Vu, 1 for 3 with a walk. Victor Acosta had a nice day, 2 for 3. And last but not least, the nightmare season for the Daytona Tortugas continues. They lose 4-2 to Dunedin. Tortugas now 19-38. They have lost 5 straight games. And I tell you what, that roster is bad right now, especially on the offensive side. Yako Soriano, 0 for 4. He's just 2 for 16 since getting promoted. Kyle Henley, 0 for 4 with 4 walks. Shout out to Bernard Moon. Good day, 3 for 4 with a double. And then Reds number 26 prospect, Devi Villafana, 4 innings, 2 runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. He's got a 4.02 ERA in 10 games this season, but a really good 37 strikeouts and just 8 walks and 40 in the 3rd innings pitched.
Great job on the Reds MILB. And as always, the Reds do play more baseball, so let's do that now. We got a little who, what, when, where, and why. It's got to go up from here, Nick.
Yeah, the Padres not exactly playing well as well. They've lost 11 out of their last 13 games. So the Reds facing another cold team. Your pitching matchups in San Diego. Monday, a 9:40 start time. Andrew Abbott going up against Walker Buehler. Tuesday, 9:40 as well. Chase Burns up against Lucas Giolito. And then Wednesday, 4:10 start time. Brady Singer going up against Michael King. Trace, I didn't even remember this. Did you know the Reds won both series against the Padres last year? Like I don't even remember that happening. But apparently they won both series, although they have not played very well against the Padres, especially in San Diego of late. Reds 10-21 against the Padres since the start of 2021. 4-13 in their last 17 games in San Diego, and that's including winning 2 out of 3 last year.
Well, we'll see ultimately if they can find a way to win some games that they have to win. I mean, they're really at some point here soon. If they can't find a way to win a couple series in a row, it's just going to get away from us. And I'm at a loss for words on what happens then, because really you're in a sell mode. And you're in a position where, as a fan base, where do you go? I mean, there's just not a lot of bright spots right now for the Cincinnati Reds, and we'll see if they can't find a way to turn that around when they play the Padres. As always, I just want to say thank you for watching, and you don't have to, But thank you for watching, and I also want to appreciate everybody that's super chatted. I want to get to those right now. Deep Brown says, it's tough being a Reds fan right now. Optimistic. Thanks for all that you guys do for the channel. You both are super gifted. Thank you. Those are kind words. I don't always get those, but those are kind words. Thank you, Deep Brown. And as I said before, like, it's just hard to do this show right now because the Reds have put ourselves, me and Nick, in a spot where it's like, you know, you want to be informative, you want to be honest, you want to be insightful, knowledgeable, but you don't want to lie. And you also don't want to degrade your own show. You don't want to degrade your own kind of program. You don't want to degrade your own product. And I do want to remind everybody, I promise you, that the team that we're watching right now, and I said this, and you can go back and check the tapes. I said to everybody, when Ellie went down and we were doing this show, when he went down, I said that you have to put him on the IL. You have to make sure that he's rested because that's way more important than whatever's going to happen over the next week and a half. But it could get ugly. And this team's going to have to find a way to survive in advance because they have a bad bullpen. They have nobody that you can trust. They also don't have their best player. They don't have their best starting pitchers. And when you put all that together, it's not a good recipe. So we'll see if we can't survive in advance. That's what this team has to do over the next week. Vandy says, watching this team is sadness. It can be. It is. Schmick Schmack chimes in and says, Steele Hall is also untouchable Trace.
Hell yeah.
That's fair. All right, I'll give you that. I'm not going to sit here and act like Steele Hall's touchable at this point. I mean, the fact that the guy has a couple home runs, that's impressive to me, considering that he's 4 home runs, as Nick's pointing out. It's impressive to me because I think I could go outside and look at the light pole that's in my front yard, and I think it might be thicker than he is. I mean, have you seen the kid? It's 125 pounds, soaking wet. He's fast.
With a 927 OPS.
He's fast. I mean, he's really fast. I'll say that. I'm excited for him. I'm looking forward to watching him.
God, I hope we're still around doing a show when he makes the big league.
2035.
That means we made it, Trace.
If either Sheng-En Lin makes his major league debut or Steele Hall makes his major league debut while we're still doing this show, we've got the love and support from all of you. There's never been a better time for 988. There's never been a better time. I got to tell you, folks, if you're down, you're feeling depressed, you're in a spot where you think that you might not be able to take it anymore, you always can turn to your friends at 988. You can text or call day or night. It's 24/7, anonymous hotline. You can just tell them you're a Reds fan, and they'll probably understand. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me here soon. I don't know how much more work it takes to get on the dial, but it wouldn't surprise me is if one of the options when you call the hotline, if it doesn't ask if you're a Reds fan here soon.
Push 4.
Yeah. Exactly. Four might be too far down the pike, honestly. I'm thinking more like 2. Text or call, day or night, 988. All right, folks. We've gotten to the point in the show where that's that. And we hope you come back tomorrow. And thank you for your patience in what has become a relatively frustrating Reds baseball team to watch right now. But as I've said before, there's nothing you could do. There's nothing you could do that would support us more than to find a way to support the people that are supporting us, which is, as we've said before, we have Sharefax Credit Union, QC Kinetix, and 988, of course, is always a place we want you to know, and we will continue to provide you with the information about that. But Braxton Brewing. I don't know what you could do other than maybe go get you a pack, because you probably need a pack of beer, honestly, anymore when you're watching this baseball team. But then, go check out one of the tap rooms, the breweries, and maybe even send them a message on socials and say thanks for supporting us and our small business. So it means a lot to us. We'll have some more information as we progress with Braxton Brewing. I got to be honest, like can. There's not a better can in the game than the ballpark beer can.
I don't think you can see my pack. It's like it's back. It's just like behind the mic. There you go.
Yeah,
it's back there.
Yeah.
I got to find a better spot.
Well, I just want to say genuinely thank you to everybody, because I've not been on here in a while. I've almost been on a mini vacation here. And every single day I'm obviously watching the Reds a little bit. Every so often I'll listen to the radio or I'll just check the game day depending on my schedule. And it's been relatively depressing every single day that I've watched. And it just feels like this thing's spiraling out of control. And we're losing the faith as a fan base. And the last thing that this show needs, of course, is a team that's just absolutely abysmal with nowhere to turn and nowhere to run to. And I don't want to do CBA talk yet. I really don't. I got a lot of stuff to say about it, and I'm going to be probably pretty passionate about it. But we got to wait for that. We're not there yet. We're not into CBA talk yet. We'll see if we can go another week without it. All right, folks. Take care, everybody. We love you. We appreciate you. Like the stream on the way out. Leave us a review if you haven't already. And we'll see you, of course, tomorrow. Take care, everybody.